and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And it's been a couple of weeks. I've been off visiting family in Manitoba. So if you're not familiar with Canadian geography, that's similar to driving from, say, Seattle to North Dakota. And yeah, lots of forest fires raging. Actually saw a glimpse of the fires driving along Highway 1 yesterday, just between Kamloops and Hope, and in BC. And you know, just prayers for those people who are out there trying to stop those things. They're pretty nasty fires. Lots of smoke. I might be coughing a little bit today because I got a lot of smoke in my lungs through the drive, but nothing compared to what those folks are doing who are fighting the fires. Had a helicopter come by and drop some, or pick up some water. We couldn't stop though. There's strict orders not to stop. So I was trying to get some footage of it, but we were just going way too fast and couldn't get it. But yeah, just yeah, not a great time. And I know there's a lot of fires around America, Canada, and around the world. There's some fires and flooding and whatnot. So I've got it pretty easy. A little tickle in my throat, and was able to take a couple of weeks just to go and enjoy myself. So just a little channel update here now that we've kind of talked about my past couple of weeks. We're going to be doing a lot of preparation, putting together a game for Historical Board Gaming. They've asked me to do that, and I'm very happy to do it. I guess you could call it an offer and ask. For my part, I'm very happy to be working on it, but it does take a lot of time. We're wanting to get it right. As you know, historical board gaming is not a misnomer. Very, very, very much wanting to have accurate depiction of history, but also be as playable as possible, and those two are quite the juggling act. And so I'm finding myself working through history books and working through a lot of math and odds calculations as well. Looks like it's going pretty well. I can't tell you what it's about, but it's going to be a great game. Hoping to have it out next year sometime. Now, I've been getting a lot of requests from people to play games, and that's fantastic. I'm flattered that people would want to play, and it's a little humbling, you know, people from mostly around North America, but a couple from Europe, just wondering if they could play. Now, I have my small cadre, if you want, of players, Hell on Wheels and Triple Crown out of Vancouver, and Corporal Clegg, and those are some people that I have played with on the on Google Meet, and it's worked very, very well. But for a bunch of newcomers wanting to play, as great as that is, folks, I simply don't have the time. So what I'm going to do is every time I have a giveaway, every time I have a contest, whether it's a who will win or just a straight up giveaway, the option will be you can have the prize, or we can set up a time to play a game. That's the best I can really do. I'm very involved in, well, lots of things, and you know, as a teacher, yeah, summer's great, but that ends about the second week of August, and then we're back into it, and I'm getting ready for the year and having meetings and getting it ready so we can have a good season with the students. So you can, if you want to play a game with the Hilltop Pillbox, I would be honored to do so, and you can choose that as your prize, and we'll get that going. Now, someone has won the previous one already, and we have to put a game together, and we're working on coming together to make that happen. But on the next time I do a giveaway, probably 3,000 subs. I don't know if that's a little I don't know if precocious is the right word. Wrong! But it's hopeful that I'll get to 3,000 subs someday. And if it looks like that's going to take a while, then I can certainly do a who will win contest or something similar, so that if you would like to play a game with me and you're not already in my small group of electronic friends, then that could be an option for you to choose. All right, so that's the channel update. We'll be continuing to try to put out content here in the summer. I do have to go back to Alberta through the Flames for my nephew's wedding in mid-August. Take a few days out for that. And then Labor Day weekend I have to go through them again, but I think I'll be going over them. I'm going to be flying to Alberta and for just the Labor Day weekend, and then it's back to work on the Tuesday. So for all of you who slug it out throughout the summer, my hat is off to you. I don't think I could teach all year round. I don't think I could do it, especially this year. Incredibly draining, trying to teach online and in person and write all new lesson plans because they have to be electronic. And yeah, that was really tiresome. And now this year we're going back to all in classrooms, so we're going back to what we know, but a different kind of prep now has to take place, so it's going to be interesting. But anyway, really appreciate all of my subs here. Hope you enjoy the content here on the Hilltop Pillbox. And so as you can see, we're going to be playing just a solo game today of Axis and Allies Pacific. I'm going to be ripping through this fairly quickly. A couple of things that a lot of people don't know about this is that this game is not about Japan trying to win by capturing capitals and all that sort of stuff. Essentially, Japan is trying to win by points. And so Japan, I should get this out here, Japan right now has 0 victory points, but at the end of each round, for every 10 IPCs they're going to win or earn, they get a point. So if at the end they get 36, well, they would get 3 victory points. And then up and up they go, and they can never lose these points. And if they ever get to 22, they win the game at any point. If they get to 22, they win the game. So the goal for Japan in the first round basically is to get as many points as they possibly can. They start with 19, so even if they only take 1 place over, they're going to get that. The goal, my goal, tends to be, I want to get at least 30, sometimes 31. The next turn I want to get 40. So I'd go from 3 to 7. Hold on to those 40 for a turn, and then you know that you're going to get whittled down. 3, 3, 3, but then you can hit 2, and you'll be okay. So that's my goal as Japan, is to go to 3 in the first turn and then get to 7 by the end of round 2. You're saying, well, that's pretty ambitious. Well, another thing you may not know about this game is on the first round of combat, the Japanese, everything they attack defends at a 1. Everything. So battleships, fighters, everything defends at a 1. And except for the Chinese infantry, because they've been fighting for a few years now, if you know your history, and so they'll be defending at a 2. And it looks like there's a lot of Chinese troops, but there's just far too much Japanese power. China rarely survives in this game, so that's pretty bad. Plus there is convoy money. There's $12 worth of convoy. We got 4 here, we got 3 here, 5 here. If there's a Japanese boat there at the end of the British turn, yeah, that money doesn't come in. Now it's $12 that you can split between these 2 British territories, India and Australia. They start with 15 and 20 IPCs respectively, so they don't really have killer incomes, and they are just going to shrink and shrink and shrink. So the idea is for the Japanese to convoy as much of this stuff as they can. Plus they can convoy them in these territories here. Oh, sorry for the shadows, folks. I don't have a staff today.
He did it. What?
But if they can get into these convoys, then they will deny the money there. Okay, so the Japanese can block the convoy, and the purple is Australian money, and the green is Indian money. So these folks are pretty hard pressed. But oh, hold on. That was a phone call I was getting, and it said potential fraud, which always means, of course, fraud.
You don't like my policies, you can just come on down here and smooch my big old white butt.
Cat!
Pucker up, Buttercup.
What? Ferris Bueller's online too.
All right, back to describing what's going on here. You have the Americans. They don't have a ton of stuff here. I mean, the Japanese are obviously gonna put the boots to everything here in Hawaii. Well, in the sea zone anyway. But the nice thing for America, because they're going to lose the Philippines, and then they likely lose Guam or Wake. Sometimes Midway. Midway's a tall order, but sometimes it happens. Thing is, America has, yes, $75 worth of IPCs. Now, they are going to be dropping some, right? They're going to be losing out on the Philippines, and Japan will be killing a lot of stuff. So they need to rebuild, but they certainly can. And the last thing I'm going to mention here is that you can build in Hawaii. Now, we have played where Hawaii is not allowed to be built upon because we thought it was historically stupid.
Stop acting stupid! Leave me alone!
But then Japan just ran roughshod because it's one extra turn that the American material needs to take to get to Hawaii and then get out into the Japanese sphere of influence and start chipping away. And remember, Japan is looking for victory points, and most of them are over here. 4, 3, 3, 4, right? This is where their victory points are. Philippines, it's worth 3, I believe. I think it's worth 3. Where is it? Yeah. Right, so if they've got 3, 3, 3, and 2 4s, that's 17 right there. Hong Kong's worth a couple, right? So this is where the game is won and lost for the Japanese. America can take all this nonsense. Doesn't really hurt the Japanese at all. But if the Japanese can get over here, and I've also done it where I have focused solely on Calcutta as the Japanese. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you need to take these right off the bat if you have any hope of getting 30 points and then 40 points on the first 2 rounds. So that's my goal for Japan this turn, is to be at 11 points at the end of the 3rd round. We'll see if it works. It's going to be a tall order. The Americans come on pretty strongly. The one thing I was going to say is then, we also have played where Hawaii has a limit of 6 units that you can place. It's kind of like with India in 1914. Some people play, they can only place 4, 5, 6, 10, none. I don't think that's right. So we have that option as well. So we'll see what we're going to do with that. The nice thing about building in Hawaii, of course, is that you're able to get into the war faster. The bad thing about being able to build in Hawaii is that the Japanese can hit it faster, and stuff you build can die pretty quickly, so you got to be careful. All right, without any further ado, on with round 1, Axis and Allies Pacific. Enjoy. All right, we're just gonna show you some review of round 1. And Japan was pretty successful. It was able to capture all but one of the things it attacked. We took a poke at Wake Island, but were unsuccessful in capturing it. But right here I'm going to show you an actual roll that just happened. And the reason I'm showing you this is because Japan really took it on the chin this turn. In fact, they have lost more stuff than the Brits have. So this could be a pretty interesting game for Japan. This here is this battle here, where a lone Japanese battleship came down to do battle with a destroyer and a transport. Now destroyers and transports, transports defend at a 1 in this game, but everything defends at a 1. And this is my one-sided dice here and my four-sided die, and that's what I just rolled. So Japan is losing a battleship. So that's it for, I still have to do all my moves, my non-coms, but this is the Deadpool from the first round. So America, yeah, lost a few things, okay. Britain lost a few, China lost a lot of men as they always do, but look what Japan lost. Japan lost a battleship, 2 subs, 2 destroyers, and 8 men. And that is far more than I have ever seen them lose. So we'll see if we're able to pull this off. They were able to sink, you know, a little bit of stuff around the board, and you can see that there's really not a lot threatening them at this point, and I still have non-coms to do, but this is worrisome. This is usually gone, and then Java gets scooped up next round. But with that being alive, that could cause me some real issues. I'll let you know how it goes right after this. Yeep. Okay, round one is over, and as we look here, we see the Americans are actually having to use one of these nifty little things because their fleet is quite large. Built a battle wagon for them here, and a destroyer and a sub, so they are ready to go to town. We also got a massive bomber fleet already. Fleet? That's the wrong thing. A bomber force that they are going to rain down a whole bunch of love and affection on the Japanese. As we look down here, they also have a carrier brought down to help out the Anzakians, if that's the proper term. The British were fortunate to have no Japanese ships in their convoy zones, so they were able to collect 12, which they sent to India because India was unable to wrest control back from the Japanese. They failed in Sumatra, which is actually a New Zealand or Australian money. That was a horrible attack. They killed one Japanese infantry but lost an infantry and an artillery, and yeah, it was pretty bad for them. The Chinese were unable to really muster any sort of an attack and have opted to leave guys up front. And this is, I'm trying something different with them, but Japan really got wailed on that turn. They took Yunnan with 4 units remaining, and then they lost all 4 and didn't kill any British units. So the Chinese were able to put 3 infantry on, so there's just 3 chips that went on Szechuan. And yeah, I think with those kind of numbers, they're likely going to get 3 again next turn. So I think China may actually survive. Now, China surviving is not that big a deal.
This is nothing.
In this game, because again, this is a big speed game. Japan's just trying to get as much as she can. But herein lies the problem. Japan might be able to get 5 more, possibly 6 more points. 6 more points is what they need to get 4 victory points. 6 IPCs, that is what they need to get 4 victory points. And the only places they can get them will be here in Java, Celebes, and Dutch New Guinea. All the other places are either blocked by warships or already in their hands, or just too far away for them to get. So they have their work cut out for them in a huge way, and with the massive American presence coming, could be difficult. So as you can see, the Japanese have 34 victory points, so they, or IPCs, pardon me, so they got 3 victory points. They actually had 35, but they lost Dutch New Guinea to the Anzacs. So if they can get their $6 this turn, that'll get them 4 victory points, which will push them to 7. That is the goal, is to have 7. I don't think they're going to have 11 at the end of round 3. I know I wanted that, but I don't think that's going to happen. Running the math here, their dice would have to get as hot as the Allies did on the first round of combat. So here we got what the Americans have lost this turn. It's pretty much the same as what you saw already. The Brits lost a couple more things going in. Chinese and the Japanese. Like the Japanese lost far more than, well, they almost lost equal what everybody else lost. And that's just, I don't know if they're going to be able to come back from this, but we're going to try. I'm going to have to put on my thinking cap here, see what we can do. It's going to be a tough road to hoe, but we're going to give it a whirl. Wish us luck. Round 2 coming up. Right, round 2 is done, and the Japanese are still hard pressed and did not get their 4 points, and we'll tell you why. Well, first of all, here we see the Americans making a real move into the Western Pacific. They're bringing their fleet and 3 loaded transports, and they've got air power to burn. That's why I was trying to take Wake Island. If you take Wake, they can't use it to support landings, but now they can. So not looking good for the Japanese right now, but of course not over yet. The American build was some bombers, 4 infantry, and 2 transports, with a total of 6 here in Hawaii. Now, I was going to build some Marines, and there's a funny thing here. You have on the American build chart, Marines cost 3, but in the rulebook, Marines cost 4. Now, since Marines by the way are the darker green sculpts, as opposed to that, the Marines, of course, attack at a 2 when doing an amphibious assault. And if there's an artillery and they compare with that, that would be a 3 they'd be attacking at. Plus, Marines that are attacking, even if it's... So if, let's say there are some Marines standing here, and there's an amphibious assault coming in here, and they go like that, they still attack at a 2. They still get their bonus. And there's no build limit. So I believe that the card is a misprint and that they should be $4 a piece. Otherwise, why would you ever build infantry as the States? Well, you just wouldn't. So anyway, here they are. They are very close to Japan. In fact, they could invade Japan next turn, except, of course, we're going to put some blockers up. Transports actually act as blockers in this game. I don't know if you knew that, but they do. They act as blockers and can they defend at 1. That's why we didn't get our 40 points, because we had a British transport here and a British transport here, could not get through. So we sank a bunch of British transports and the British fleet. We took all of our air power from here, including a bomber, or 2 bombers, and we came down here, we smacked that thing silly. And yeah, so there is no more fleet here in the Indian Ocean. There's still a small fleet here that will get larger, no doubt. But India has basically made 2 camps here, one in China and one in India, and are going to try to hold on. As the Japanese player, I think I have to hit this, and I'll wait 1 turn with the Japanese up here to go south, but as when I played China, I said, you know, I'm going to go north because now I'm going to force him to come up there with some resources. Probably these 2 guys in Anhui and perhaps the tank. One of the tanks, but we'll see if that's a good idea. I'll do a little bit of math on that and see. But essentially, I want to put as much pressure here as I can. Now, the best way to put pressure on India, of course, is to get their money islands and to put pressure on these convoys. If you can get these 2 convoys, that's $7 not going to the Allies. And this one over here is not going to be gotten by the Japanese too easily this turn, or this game, in order to hold it. Unless we park the whole fleet here. Of course we could do that, but with the big American fleet, we better start heading home with some of this stuff. So that's where we're at now. If we look at our game board, the Japanese are at 36, so we only got 3 points, or up to 6 here, and everybody else is where they are. You can see India, you know, always suffering in this game, down to 6. Australia is at 15, and America is at 72. So we will do round 3 and see if Japan is able to somehow, if we can get 4 this turn, that might breathe a little bit of life into their hope. But of course, this here is just a disaster waiting to happen. I do have 6 kamikazes for the Japanese. Simply identify which boat you're targeting and roll a die. 1 or a 2 sinks it. Or is a hit. So it doesn't sink a battleship, you need 2 hits. But rarely do we go after battleships. We tend to go after transports. Battleships can't take land, of course. Now, one thing you like to do in this game as the Japanese player is always keep 1 kamikaze available to defend Japan proper. The reason for that is that if a kamikaze gets used, it means that that is a sea battle, which means that any of the accompanying ships cannot do bombards. Okay, so just a little handy tip there. And who knows, you might plunk a transport at the same time. But don't spend all 6 in one sea zone out away from Japan, because then he could just roar on in and bombard. Now you could say, well, I'll just build a cheap boat. Well, nothing's cheap when you have to build it, right? So we'll see what we come up with here in the end of, or in here in round 3. It's already a whole bunch of stuff has happened this game. This has been a pretty interesting game. But if we can't take Java this turn, I think it's curtains for Japan. So wish us luck as we go for the gold in the Dutch East Indies. Alright, turn 4 is in the books. No, it isn't. Turn 3 is in the books. Turn 4 is coming up. And the Americans are pushing ever further into the west in the Pacific. And they were able to grab Bonin Island and killed the sub doing it. But there was nothing on Bonin Island, so it's just easy for them, and includes an air base, so good for them. They are now well within striking distance of Tokyo. Brought the Japanese bombers back and the fighters, because I think we may take a poke at that big American fleet. Now, the Americans can certainly sink our fleet with all of that, but if we can sink the American fleet, that'll help us out a lot. Now, these transports here are a little problematic, and I built another one here because this is what you need to do as America. You got to build transports and air power and sea power. Yeah, you got to do everything, but hey, you got 70 some bucks to work with every turn. Down here, Anzac is moving a little bit further west because the Japanese were able to take Java, and so they were able to get their 4 points this round. So they have gone up to 10 points. I gotta have moved them on the chart yet. Be careful with the glare. That's a very shiny board. Don't have that problem with the matte finish boards, but with these ones here, obviously this is a problem. Alright, over here, India just decided to bulk up with some men, but they also pushed forward because look what the Japanese were able to do. They were able to take Sichuan and Yunnan. They lost a ton of stuff taking Sichuan, only have 2 tanks left. And Yunnan, though, was a bit better for them because they used most of their air power taking out the British stack. Got really good rolls with the bombers and fighters when they went into Sichuan, but the Chinese got some pretty devastating rolls in return. So, that's what we have left. China is pretty much a non-factor now. Probably take them out this turn. It's worth a buck. And we're right at 40 now with Japan, so we want a little bit of a cushion. Don't quite have the strength to go into Burma right now, but we may do it anyway, and I'll tell you why. I've got a lot of stuff down here that could just transport over and land in Burma. If we can take Burma, that knocks India down to $5. Meanwhile, I'm going to be convoying these zones here, which is going to force the Anzac to come over and take action. So I don't think I'm going to convoy this one though, actually. That's well within range of a big punch for them. So we'll probably convoy the 4, which means that that's only $8 more, which is only 13 that India could get. So that might be enough to keep India honest. Again, taking India, taking Calcutta here is not really the goal of this game. You waste too many resources. You're basically just trying to keep India hemmed in, which I've been able to do. Australia's able to do what it wants, but its economy is pretty dead too. So we're relying heavily on the Americans, just like in the real war. I mean, the Americans did most of the heavy lifting. Not, of course, to dismiss what the British, the Dutch, the Anzac, the Canadians, the Chinese, everybody did to fight the Japanese. And you got to have some respect for the Japanese war machine, being able to take on all that. And they did pretty well for a while, but pretty much on their heels now. So, will they be able to take out this American fleet? And in response, will the American fleet take out theirs? And then they've got some backup fleet coming and transports. It's going to be a messy turn 4. Will any blue tokens, these fleet markers, remain?
Don't count on it! Oh!
4 is done, and it's amazing what a difference a turn will make. Let's take a look here at the Pacific. It is quite empty. Out here we have these American boats left, but the Air Force is gone, the fleet is gone, and the Japanese remain. Now, it really was about average dice for both sides. I was kind of hoping the Americans could get lucky and the Japanese poor luck from round 1 might show its head again, but it did not happen. They rolled about even. And in this game, if you're not familiar, transports do defend at 1, and you can take them as casualties at any time. So the Japanese are more than happy to sacrifice a transport, take a hit on a battleship, and then the American hits on the rest of the fleet. And in response, they had a whole whack of hits. They got 7 hits on the Americans, who only had 10 units. And I decided to press the attack because what was left was a damaged battleship and 2 carriers and 4 planes. I thought, well, if I get 3 hits, gonna have to lose, well, possibly, I mean, three boats, or pardon me, 2 boats and a plane. But I only got 2 hits, so that didn't work out real well for the Americans. So kind of a turn behind here, but other things are happening. We did bring some American troops down here to maybe liberate New Guinea, and the Anzac were able to come and take Celebes. So that knocks Japan down to 39 bucks. Now that might not seem like a big deal, but if we look here, the Japanese are going to be very hard pressed to take $1 back anywhere. The only chance they have is to load up a man here, steal a man from here, and then come to Celebes and try to take that and use some fighter power to do that. So if they could do it, that'll put them back up to 40. That would get them 4 points. If they get 4 points this turn, then it's probably a Japanese victory. If they only get 3, they could be in some trouble, and I'll show you why. Here we have India, which has been left alone for pretty much the whole game, is now pushing and threatening French Indochina and Siam, and they might be able to punch them down into the mid-30s. Also, Sumatra is empty. That's worth 3. Java is now under threat by Anzac landings and air power and American air power. So that's another 4, that's 7. Malaya is empty. That's another 4. Sorry for the glare, folks. And the Japanese definitely need to take care of this American transport. And the Anzac have another transport. So there's going to be a steady stream of traffic headed towards the Japanese money islands here. The other rule is that if you can knock Japan down to under 10 bucks at the end of its turn, that's the end of the game. That's a tall order. Then you have to take all of China and Manchuria and Shantung, and they can't be on any of these money islands. So if that's happening, then yeah, Japan is in a tough way. So we built some more transports here, and we'll probably have to push hard next turn. I didn't want to send these out too soon because, well, the Japanese just have too much stuff that can reach and hit hard. So, but the Japanese are sitting pretty good. They're sitting at 39. They need to get $1 back, and they're sitting at 14 points right now. And so they only need 8 points to win the game. So 2 rounds of 4, 3 rounds of 3. So definitely need to really push hard with the Allies. Otherwise the Japanese may pull this off. This game, I think I said this at the beginning, is fairly balanced. The Japanese, their first round is very telling. Typically. Now this game it hasn't been because they really lost a lot of stuff in that first round, and even now you can see that they've lost far more than any other nation. Far more. but they've gotten the good rolls when they've needed them. But they are very thin down here, very thin, and not sure if an attack is ill-advised, but we shall see. I also decided to build one more tank for the Indians, and they now have three, 2 tanks and a fighter. So they do have some punch on the ground. Alright, here we go. Round 5 coming up. What will happen? Alright, so Japan looks as though she's on her way to victory here. Kind of took it on the chin this turn, losing units left and right. And they also lost some territory. They lost Java to the Anzac attack. And they lost Shan State. They actually went into Shan State and only lost 1 Japanese infantry, but then to the 6 British defenders got 1 hit. But coming back, the reverse happened, where the British only suffered 1 casualty. So they're very strong now here, and there's no chance to get into Calcutta. So I just built a transport so that they could gobble up some territory here. Japan has lost her whole transport fleet down here and only has 2 transports left. So that was courtesy of the American carrier here, was able to kill 2 Japanese transports that had brought these 4 guys down, and another one over here at Salibs. So while the Allies are making a strong push and will likely take the Japanese down pretty far this turn into the 20s, it is unlikely they'll be able to take them into the teens or lower. But we're going to keep playing, because you just don't know. You don't know until it happens. The Japanese were able to get rid of the Chinese contingent, and they are effectively out of the game. The Chinese can only come back if they get the whole Burma Road liberated. Then they can get 1 guy back, and then Szechuan gets them 1, and Sakang gets them 1. But for right now, they're pretty much out of it. Now, I think I made a mild mistake last turn when I didn't move. I had the opportunity to come down here, and I didn't move down here fast enough. Now, had I been down here, the American contingent could be here this turn, just with 1 transport, mind you, but still 1 transport's all you need to take empty. And that is typically how it goes here. Built some transports for the Japanese, hoping to bulk up some of the more expensive places. But with this large Japanese fleet right in the middle, pretty good reach, got some aircraft here, it's going to be difficult for the Americans to deal with, well, trying to knock down the Japanese. I won't say it's impossible. I haven't run the numbers yet, because the Japanese, this is $10 right here. They are likely going to lose. They're likely going to lose this here. It's another 6. Here is another 3-9. So it will be a race to the finish, but the Japanese are right there. They're at 18. They only need 4 more points. So for the Allies to win, they're going to have to actually get them down under 10 points. And I just don't think there's enough time left. But we're going to try. We'll let you know how round 6 goes right after this. Alright, well, I'm not sure what I was thinking last turn.
What? What are you thinking?
Because the game really was over last turn. But we'll walk you through essentially why. So the Japanese were at 18 and they had 38 points. So they were going to go up to 21, and there was no way for the Allies to knock them down to less than 10 points in this one turn. So it was a Japanese victory, and I don't know why I didn't think of that. But I played out the turn, and as you can see, what a time for the dice to get hot for the Allies. We're just going to turn that a little bit. Right, look at this. The British were able to take large swaths of the Japanese territory. Now, what I did with Japan, just to kind of hold on, is I placed a fighter here, here, and here, just so that they weren't walk-ons. And who knows, you know, you might be able to win, right? And, you know, if you kill both the units that are on the transport, then you may be able to deny them. And the Allies did a pretty good job here. We had, I don't know if you remember, my American bomber was here. It flew over here and sank a destroyer and 2 transports, but was killed on the final round. The Japanese, we backed up to here just so that we can have a good time protecting the homeland. The British, or the Americans, flew the bombers over here, and with the carrier here, would have been nice to nail that next turn, but unfortunately time has run out because the Japanese have been knocked down to 25 all the way from 38 one turn. So that was a really good turn by the Allies. The Japanese actually had a submarine up here, so the Americans had to build to send a destroyer up there. And I didn't actually even bother moving the Americans once I figured out what was going on here, but I can't move them up here. Oh, also there was a destroyer and 2 transports here. I sent my Japanese bombers over here because they could land in Dutch New Guinea. As you can see, they're not there because everybody died. Just mutual destruction there. But that's what the Japanese want at this stage of the game, right? Is to really stub the toe of the Allies so that they're unable to prosecute the war in such a way as to knock Japan down. So, I'm not sure if that one move would have made any difference about bringing the Americans down 1 turn sooner. I think one of the big ones was not being able to kill this fleet 2 turns ago. I think that was huge. Had I been able to kill that fleet, then the American transports could just come across, right? They wouldn't have to come south, and they'd probably be threatening Philippines right now, if not the Japanese homeland. But the Japanese homeland is pretty stocked, as you can see. And the Americans have a tight hold on Bonin Island for 1 point. But hey, $1 is $1, right? Well, thank you so much for watching, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this throwback to Axis and Allies Pacific, the old school. I apologize for the shadows in my shooting. I'm shooting up in the office today, and the lighting isn't the greatest. And this is actually the 2nd day because I ran out of time last night, and I'm shooting in the morning here, and that's why I'm speaking in a bit more of a hushed tone and not wanting to wake everybody up while I'm filming. So,
Come on, Bob. 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 Cock-a-doodle-doo! Bob. Bob. Oh!
but thank you so much for watching, and keep your eyes peeled for the next Who Will Win contest. If you want to play a game of this or another game of Axis and Allies, we'll be happy to do that. So take care, folks. Hug your loved ones, especially these days, folks. You really need it. So much unrest everywhere, and I don't know if you saw it. I saw a little thing Matt Damon said. He's shooting a film right now, and he mentioned that there's so much more that we have in common, but the media tends to highlight our differences, which drives wedges between people groups, right? And we get tribalism going because of the media. But when you get down to it, don't we all want the same thing, right? Don't we want peace? Don't we want happiness? Don't we want just people to succeed? Isn't that what we want? We want to succeed. We want to see others succeed. And so it was a nice message that he spoke, and so I appreciated that, because so many people try to divide us, right? You get into arguments with complete strangers and start swearing at them and calling them names and things, and it really just tears at the soul, right? And it really hurts your community and makes your day worse. So if I could just encourage you to encourage others, and to just step up when you hear people trying to divide. Just say, hey, we all really want the same thing in the end, right? We really do. How we get it, might have some differences of opinion, but let's get along. Let's do what we can. So hug your loved ones. Thank your friends for playing. And as the Japanese got a little bit this game, at the right times anyway, may the dice be with you.